What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Thursday, March 9th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, let's take a look at this 6-game slate tonight. I was traveling yesterday, wasn't able to post a video, thought I would be able to, but luckily didn't run into any travel problems like I did the previous time, so I'm back here tonight. So let's take a look at this 6-game slate. So at the point guard position, I like Jalen Green from the Houston Rockets playing the Indiana Pacers, who have the 5th worst defense overall, give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Also eligible at the shooting guard position, Jalen Green has averaged 33.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 29% usage rate. He's projected at 34.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's 6,400 DraftKings salary, 400 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 235.5 points scored in this game. And Jalen Green has scored 33, 38, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 27, and 28 minutes. Now, Jalen Green, great player versus team history versus the Pacers, scored 31, 42, 37, and 32 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Pacers. And he hasn't scored under 31 fantasy points in 4 out of his last 5 games. Great matchup here, so I like Jalen Green here versus the Indiana Pacers. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. So shooting guards here. I got a lot of them to pick from because there's a lot of shooting guard / small forward. So I could give you these guys at either position, but I'm going to go ahead and just start. I don't know if he's a better shooting guard or small forward, but I'll start with Franz Wagner from the Orlando Magic playing the Utah Jazz, who have the 8th worst defense overall, middle of the pack defending opposing shooting guards. Franz Wagner has averaged 30.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. He's projected at 30.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's just about 5 times value. He's 6,200 DraftKings salary and only he's 300 less on FanDuel, so only 5,900 FanDuel salary. So I love that FanDuel price. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 232.5 points scored in this game. Franz Wagner has scored 38, and 13 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 32, and 13 minutes. And he scored 48, 25, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games versus the Jazz. So I like Franz Wagner here versus the Utah Jazz. Now, if you don't like Franz Wagner, Kevin Huerter has been on fire the last 2 games, scoring 52 and 39 fantasy points in 36 and 32 minutes. He's got a decent matchup here versus the Knicks, who give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. He's 5,800 DraftKings salary, 1,000 more on FanDuel. I think he can go for 30 plus fantasy points here tonight and get you 5 times value or more. So I like Kevin Huerter here versus the New York Knicks. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won. And then we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. So I like Josh Hart from the New York Knicks playing the Sacramento Kings, who have the 10th worst defense overall, give up the second most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Josh Hart has averaged 27.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 13% usage rate. He's projected at 26.1 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5 times value. He's $5,200 DraftKings salary, $700 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 236 points scored in this game. So Josh Hart has scored 23 fantasy points in his last 3 games. All 3 of those games scored 23 fantasy points, playing 32, 39, and 32 minutes. So the minutes are there, and we know he's got 30 plus fantasy point upside. He did score 36 fantasy points in his last game versus the Kings. It's a great matchup in a high scoring game. So if he gets hot, he could go for 30 plus pretty easily here. So I like Josh Hart here versus the Sacramento Kings. Now, you could also go with Jae'Sean Tate from the Houston Rockets playing the Indiana Pacers, who have the 5th worst defense overall, give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards, small forwards, opposing small forwards. And Jae'Sean Tate has averaged 18.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 21 minutes per game. The more that I look at this, Jae'Sean Tate, I'd probably just pay up for Josh Hart. Jae'Sean Tate scored 25 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 22 and 22 minutes. So he is back from injury and he's playing decently well here. He's scoring above his season average the last 2 games. But it does look like he's only averaging 21 fantasy points per game on the season. Only played 22 minutes the last 2 games. So I do think he's a decent play at $4,100 DraftKings salary, $600 more on FanDuel. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. He's got 30 plus fantasy point upside. The question is how many minutes he's going to play, so that's always a big risk. So I'm going to pass maybe on Jae'Sean Tate. I think I like Josh Hart a little bit better there if you could pay up for him. So let's take a look at the power forward position. I like Draymond Green from the Golden State Warriors playing the Memphis Grizzlies, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Draymond Green averaging 30.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 13% usage rate. He's projected at 29.4 fantasy points here tonight. Now, he needs like 32 fantasy points to hit 5 times value. I think he's going to get there no problem. He's $6,300 DraftKings salary, but he is $1,100 more on FanDuel, so I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 235.5 points scored in this game. Draymond Green scored 32, 29, and 12 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 31, and 23 minutes. But the reason that I like this pick is Draymond Green has scored 40, 46, and 46 fantasy points in his last 3 games versus the Grizzlies. And if you throw out that 12 that he got 3 games ago, he hasn't scored under 29 fantasy points in 5 games, and then it's a 32, a 34, and a 42. So I do think he's in a great spot here on DraftKings tonight. So I like Draymond Green on DraftKings here versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Xavier Tillman Sr. Xavier Tillman from the Memphis Grizzlies playing the Golden State Warriors, who have the 9th worst defense overall, give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Xavier Tillman, now he's only averaging 16.2 fantasy points per game on the season, but that was when he was only playing 17 minutes a game with a 14% usage rate. He's playing a lot more minutes now. He's projected at 30 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value, 5,900 DraftKings salary, 100 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 235.5 points scored in this game. Xavier Tillman has scored 38, 26, and 32 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 34, and 29 minutes. So I like Xavier Tillman here versus the Golden State Warriors. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.